So the government gives us lots of great ways to fund retirement accounts in a tax-advantaged way. Some of these are Roth, which is an after-tax, but withdrawals are tax-free. Some is traditional, which we get a tax deduction when we make the contribution, but then our withdrawals are taxable. And then we get to do that in a variety of account types. 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, 457, thrift savings plan, you name it. There's all different ways we can do that. Now the problem a lot of times with these is if we're diligent savers, we'll put a lot of money in these accounts, but we can't touch any of it until we're age 59 and a half. Otherwise, we'd be subject to a 10% early withdrawal penalty. So in many cases, we reach retirement age, ready to use some of that money, but we can't get to it yet because we're not old enough. Well, there are some strategies for you to tap these accounts before age 59 and a half. We'll run through 7 of those today in this video. Number 1 is Roth contributions. Roth contributions are always tax and penalty free to be withdrawn from the account. The reason is the money you put into a Roth is after tax. The government's already got their share of that money, so they're not really concerned with you pulling it back out. If you ever think you'll need to remove Roth contributions from an account, you need to make sure the custodian of that account is reporting your Roth contributions to the IRS each and every year. For an IRA, you need to make sure that your custodian is submitting Form 5498 to the IRS. This document records your contributions each and every year to a Roth IRA. Now, with all that said, I highly recommend that you avoid removing Roth contributions from a retirement plan if you can. And the reason is once you do that, you're forfeiting all the future growth and earnings that money would have earned in the account because you can't put it back later. Number 2 is the rule of 55. This applies to 401ks and 403bs. And basically what the rule of 55 says is that if you retire from your employer at age 55 or later, you can use the 401k or 403b plan from that employer to fund your retirement before age 59 and a half. Now, to be very clear, this only applies to the employer-sponsored plan for the employer that you retire from. So if you have an old 401k or 403b from a previous employer, you cannot use that money before age 59 and a half unless you roll it into your current plan and then retire. This also only applies if you retire at age 55 or later. You couldn't retire at age 51 and then begin taking the funds out at age 55. You have to retire at 55, then remove the funds. Or you could retire at 56, 57, 58, and then start at that point. But it's only 55 or later that you can begin this. Number 3 is Rule 72T, or Series of Equal Periodic Payments. This applies to basically any tax-advantaged retirement account. And basically what it allows you to do is begin taking a series of equal periodic payments, beginning at any age really, and continue taking those out of your account until you reach age 59 and a half, or 5 years, whichever occurs later. So if you started doing this at age 57, you'd have to continue until age 62. If you started at age 51, you'd have to continue at 8.5 years until you're 59 and a half. Now, there are 3 different ways you can calculate the series of equal periodic payments. There's a minimum distribution method, an annuity factor method, and an amortization method. And once you begin calculating with one of these 3 methods, you have to continue that until you complete your 5 years or reach age 59 and a half. Now, these 3 different calculating methods can be pretty complex. I'd highly recommend you reaching out to a tax professional to calculate those for you and help you with a 72T distribution, because if you mess them up, it can be quite painful from a tax perspective. Number 4 is rolling funds in or out of IRAs. The reason you might want to do this is to utilize one of the other options we're sharing in this video. Now, if you have a 401k plan that allows in-service distributions, you could roll those into an IRA to give you flexibility to do a 72T distribution, or maybe you want to convert to a Roth through a traditional IRA. Another option would be to roll from your IRA to your 401k so you could use the rule of 55. Now, if you try to roll your IRA into the 401k to use the rule of 55, be sure you do it before you retire, because if you retire before rolling the funds, then you won't be able to withdraw them before 59 and a half like you would if they were in the account when you retire. Number 5 is a qualified reservist distribution. A qualified reservist distribution, or QRD, is designed to help reservists who have activated overseas to allow them to meet their financial obligations while they're away. You can make a QRD from a 457, thrift savings, 401k, IRA, any one of those plans. And to be eligible, you must be a reservist who is deployed overseas for an indefinite period of time or for a period of at least 179 days. I'll confess, if you qualify for a QRD, it's unlikely that you'd also be in a position to be funding an early retirement. There's just too many hoops to jump through for this to actually fit, but we thought we'd make you aware anyway. Number 6 is a Roth conversion ladder. Now, you may already know that if you convert funds from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, you have to pay income tax on that conversion. What you may not know is eventually that whole conversion amount is treated a lot like a contribution, meaning it can be withdrawn penalty and tax-free after a period of 5 years. Now, for early retirement, that means you can convert funds from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA as early as you want, really, and just wait 5 years before you can begin removing those funds from the account, penalty and tax-free. There's also no limitation to how much you can convert in a year. So while you can only contribute $6,500 to an IRA in 2023 or $7,500 if you're 50 or older, you could convert as much as you have in a traditional account to a Roth. You just have to be able to pay the income tax on the conversion. Now, the reason we call it a Roth conversion ladder is you can make a series of conversions year after year, and after 5 years, those funds will then be eligible to be removed 1 year after the other. If you decide to do a Roth conversion ladder, be sure to keep an eye on those tax brackets. Whenever you make a conversion from a traditional IRA to a Roth, that conversion sits on top of your regular income, so it could push you into higher tax brackets. And the higher the tax bracket you're forced to convert at, the less attractive this option becomes. Number 7 is taxable brokerage accounts. The reason we've included this in our list is because of the flexibility they provide. Unlike a lot of the other strategies we've covered, in a taxable brokerage account, you're free to remove the funds at any time. And the good news is, for long-term gains within a taxable brokerage account, they're taxed at a lower rate than your income. Capital gains tax rates are always lower than income tax rates for the same income levels. So capital gains taxes go from 0 to 15 to 20%. They stop there. So for example, you could potentially be taxed on income at 24% and pay 15% tax on capital gains by removing funds from your taxable brokerage account. That's a 9% tax savings that you wouldn't get if you weren't using long-term capital gains. Granted, these accounts do not receive the tax benefits that traditional Roth IRAs do, but they are very useful for tax planning and give you a lot of flexibility in retirement when you begin making withdrawals from these accounts. They're also a very useful place to fund the conversions from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA if you do the conversion ladder. By using a brokerage account, you can avoid cannibalizing your IRA dollars to pay the tax. So as we wrap up, I kind of want to remind you that nearly all of these take advanced planning, so keep your eye on the ball. Be sure you're calculating your net worth regularly. Be sure you have a good idea of what your expenses might be in retirement. So that way you kind of have an idea of how much you actually need to retire. You may find that you can retire much earlier than you think if you just look at it. And if you've got a good forecast, then you have years of advanced planning that you can do to put a lot of these strategies in place. Now, we have tons more information about tax advantage retirement accounts on our website at markmoney.com. We've also got lots of other videos and posts we've done about this topic. We'll put some links to those in the description below and some other topics that are similar to this one. As always, we are so grateful for your interest and your time in watching our video. God bless and take care.